Okay. All right, good. Hey, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm Dr. Dave, Paragon Chiropractic, and welcome back to another episode of Story Time with Dr. Dave. Today's story is called Processed Foods and Trans Fats. Oh my. Hello. I'm continuing with our series on defining health terms, in other words, one might find on food labels. Let's take a look at processed foods. Well, we all know this, right? Processed foods are junk foods that are not nutrient-dense whole foods. See what I did there? That's our new term, right? Well, not so fast. This is very interesting. The following came from a Mayo Clinic post on the internet, and it says, according to the Department of Agriculture, processed foods are any raw agricultural commodities that have been washed, cleaned, milled, cut, chopped, heated, pasteurized, blanched, cooked, canned, frozen, dried, dehydrated, mixed, or packaged. Anything done to them that alters their natural state. This may include adding preservatives, flavors, nutrients, and other food additives, or substances approved for use in food products such as salt, sugars, and fats. Good. So there's kind of a hierarchy here. So which foods are more processed, all right? So essentially anything, so it says, essentially anything you pull out of the ground and don't eat dirt and all, is, even if you run it underwater, is now considered a processed food. So here, according to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, they rank processed foods from minimally to most processed. Okay, minimally processed foods such as fresh blueberries, cut vegetables, and roasted nuts are simply prepped for convenience. Yeah, they pretty much look how they were when you got them, or when somebody picked them or collected them. Good. Foods processed at their peak to lock in nutritional quality and freshness include canned tomatoes, or tuna, or frozen fruit or vegetables. All right, so that's not such a bad deal. Rather than picking something and hurrying it to get it to the market, it's flash frozen right at the moment, holds in the nutrients, and hey, that's not such a bad deal. The third one is foods with ingredients added for flavor and texture. Now we're starting to get into what most people think are processed foods, such as sweeteners, spices, oils, colors, and preservatives. Includes jarred pasta sauce, salad dressing, yogurt, and cake mixes. All right, the next one is ready-to-eat foods, such as crackers, chips, and deli meat, are more heavily processed. So you see how as we're going down here, these foods are becoming more and more processed. And finally, the most, which would be considered ultra-processed, the most heavily processed foods are often frozen or pre-made meals, including frozen pizza and microwavable dinners. So much for dinner tonight, huh? Sorry to wreck it. I am reading this, so at any rate, I think you know that. So I guess unless you pick it from a tree or pull it from the ground and eat it dirt and all, it can be considered a processed food. So much for chocolate chip seeds, so much for chocolate chip cookie seeds, or hot dog trees, right? That would be nice. Pull up a chocolate chip cookie and now you're not too processed. The moment you rinse it in water, it is now a processed food. But look, as one goes down the above list, one begins to recognize processed and heavily processed foods, like we talked about. There is that line there. So you wouldn't have thought these would be considered processed simply because somebody froze them or washed them. But then it's like, here's a microwave pizza. Seriously, one has to know that handful of frozen berries, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I did write this, and this is what my process would be. That a handful of frozen berries are not the same as a frozen microwave dinner, right? Please tell me you see this, okay? Good. So make sure you read those labels and understand the hierarchy of processed food. Here's an example. In my pantry, is a box of 3-seed kale crackers. Wow, kale! That's supposed to be good for you, right? Heck, it even says gluten-free. Ambrosia, right? That means food for the gods. In fact, kale is a cruciferous vegetable like broccoli and is loaded with healthy sulforaphane. Also, it's non-GMO verified. Bliss. The perfect snack, right? Okay, before you hop in your car and run to the store, let's take a look. So first of all, this is a processed food. Go back up and find crackers as the 4th bulletin on our Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics list. Also, there won't be any sulforaphane available as it is not a nutrient-dense whole food. Uh-oh, strike 1 and strike 2. Let's look at the ingredients. White corn, sunflower or corn oil, flaxseed, black sesame seeds, chia seeds, kale, kale flakes, and sea salt. These ingredients are strike 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You might as well skip your next 2 turns at bat if you're going to buy this, right? The corn, the sunflower, and corn oils are highly inflammatory. They just play havoc with your blood sugar, jack up that insulin to the ionosphere, and you're off to the races for pretty much any disease you'd care to want to have. Good. And pretty darn harmful to you as well. We'll talk about the oils later. Any redeeming benefits from flaxseed, black sesame, and chia seeds, along with the kale, have been lost to processing and not being nutrient-dense whole foods. It's not ambrosia after all. I'm not the shopper in my family, and it should be obvious that Dr. Diane no longer loves me or has stopped loving herself and wants to take me with her into the next realm. Nah, she wouldn't do that. She can hardly stand me in this realm. I guess she doesn't love me, huh? That's okay. Good. I guess you're supposed to love yourself anyhow. At any rate, so if you were shopping, would you buy this product? Or rather, should I ask, should you buy this product? No. All right, so let's move on. How about trans fats? What the heck are these? Most are familiar with this term, or at least have heard of hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, right? To manufacture trans fat, hydrogen is added to polyunsaturated fats like corn oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola oils, and other vegetable oils to make them more semi-solid, right? So polyunsaturated oils have no hydrogen and they're liquid. So they goose it a little, put some hydrogen, and make it a little semi-solider, right? Products such as Crisco or margarine are perfect examples of trans fats. Those aren't good for you. Ironically, even though they were very bad for you, trans fats don't ever really go bad. Wow, I once read where a can of Crisco was opened and left exposed to the environment for 10 years. Apart from being under layers of dust and debris, the Crisco was as good as the day it was abandoned. That can't be good for you. Remember, digestion is a process of putrefaction and decomposition. So here's something that doesn't putrefy or decompose. And it's in everything you eat. How valuable and nutritious would be a food that your body could not digest? Not very. A number of years ago, my brother, who was a builder, was doing an attic in someone's home, or redoing an attic in someone's home. Between the floor joists, he found a bag of French fries from a popular fast food restaurant. The homeowner said it had been over 10 years since any work was done in the attic, and yet the fries looked and smelled exactly as they did the day they were left in the rafters. Some 20 years later, I still have the fries, and while the potato part has long since decomposed, the remaining skin is still intact and golden brown. That's trans fats for you. 20 years. You're going to eat that? In November of 2013, here's the even better part, here's your government working for you hard again. I'll get off the soapbox. In November of 2013, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration determined that partially hydrogenated oils are no longer GRAS. That's G, capital G-R-A-S. That is generally recognized as safe to be in human food. 2013, that was 10 years ago. And yet, it's still in human food. So much for the FDA. Eating trans fats increases your risk of developing heart disease and stroke. It is also associated with a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Trans fats are found in many heavily processed foods such as fried foods, donuts, baked goods, including cakes, pie crust, biscuits, frozen pizza, cookies, crackers, sticks of margarine, and other spreads. It's best to simply read the label of the product you want to buy. Do not look at the packaging. This can be deceiving, right? Usually the more brightly and more whatever, the more crap is in. If you go to and you pick up a bag of celery, man, what's that look like? It's got dirt on it and there's probably bugs in there and everything else, but it'll do you some good. You go into the processed food aisle and here's this yellow and red and gold and there's a clown juggling unicycles and all sorts of things like that on the cover. It's crap. Good. For some reason, if a product has less than 0.5 grams, this is an interesting thing. If a product has less than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving, it can be considered as 0 grams of trans fat and will proudly display such on the packaging. Wow, it's still got trans fat. It says 0. That's why you don't look at the packet, you look at the labels. Sounds good. Now, what the manufacturers did is they simply decreased the size of the serving. So it's still got as many trans fats in it as it did. But now I can proudly say it has none. And then you go and buy it and, I don't know, throw your life to the wind. Dirty dogs, that's what I said. So read the label. Does it say hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oil? If so, that is a trans fat, regardless of what the pretty colorful packaging says. Okay, that's probably enough for this blog. So until next time, take care. I'm Dr. Dave.